What's up, Dolphins fans? Happy Tuesday, and welcome back to Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. We are live here on the channel. I am Nic Rohloff, and, well, we just got through the busiest weekend of the year in the NFL Draft, and you know what? It's still a good time to come up here and talk some Dolphins football, and there is a lot to discuss here at the end of April. We're going to look at some UDFA grades. I'm going to grade every UDFA that the Dolphins signed. We're going to look at winners and losers on this Dolphins roster following the draft, which players currently on the roster won and which lost based on who the Dolphins signed in undrafted free agency and drafted. We'll also take a look at some Dolphins trade targets as well as some Dolphins cut candidates. So a busy show on tap. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend, enjoyed the content we put out surrounding the NFL draft, and is ready to talk some more Dolphins football on this fine Tuesday afternoon. As we always start out the stream, shout out your city for me down in the comments section. Where are the people watching from? Got 90 people in the building here early. What's up to my guy, Ruski? Fins Up is in the building. Sherry May. Santiago is in Miami. Miami Dolphins fans here. Slushy Sloth, Luat, Santiago, Elvin, Zealous. I see Miami, Florida from Tyson. Houston from Brian Jones. Alex says, what's up? What's up, Alex? Papa Ken is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Ruski's in Fresno. Luat is in H-Town. Wesley's in North Carolina. King Gaming is in Atlanta. Tilo says, thank you for all the great information. I appreciate you. And also from Homestead, I appreciate you for tuning in and hanging out with us here. Alex is in Virginia. So is Elwood. One is in Chesapeake. One is Gannett. Tim says, Rolly, when we trade Jalen Ramsey, how much money returns to our cap? Watching from Foxborough. So right now, the Dolphins cap hit for Jalen Ramsey is $16.6 million. If the Dolphins trade Jalen Ramsey after June 1st, that cap number actually slightly goes down to $10.8 million. So the Dolphins would save $5.9 million in cap savings this year. Now, they would have a big cap hit next year of $18.4 million, I believe, for Jalen Ramsey, but they would save about $5.9 million in cap savings if they traded him this year, post-June 1st. Rob is watching from Kansas, Jay Griffin in Niagara Falls, Jorge's in South Beach. I see Hopewell, Virginia, Boston, Massachusetts. Who's my favorite UDFA signing? Ruski says his is Andrew Armstrong, the wide receiver from Arkansas. I don't want to give it away because I'm going to go 1 through 1 and grade every UDFA signing, all 16 of them from the Dolphins. But I will say it's a tie for first between Andrew Armstrong and Jalen Conyers, the tight end from Texas Tech. Alicia's watching from Turks and Caicos. What's up, Daniel Barry? Elwood is saying sign Rasul Douglas, trade Ramsey for Jair Alexander, signed Matthew Judon, and I assume that's Quandre Diggs, the safety. Is Matthew Judon still available?
I think so.
I didn't know that. He was actually really bad for the Falcons last year. Rare victory for the Patriots, trading him last year for a third-round pick. I thought that was a dumb decision by them at the time, but he was not good last season. He did have 5.5 sacks, but the eye test and film watch tells you those sacks weren't really caused by him. It was more of he cleaned up a mess. He wasn't that good last year. But I will say, the Dolphins have 5 edges. They have Bradley Chubb. They have Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, Mo Kamara, and Quentin Bell, who was actually relatively good last season. If you got Matthew Judon on a vet min deal, I would not say no to that. I would not say no. I would not say no. What's up, Jonathan Soto? Fins Up says we trading for Newsome. Hey, it's an option. I'm going to talk about Dolphins trade targets here in one of our segments today, and Greg Newsome is on the list. Over 105 people watching. Who was your favorite Dolphins draft pick? Who was it? The Dolphins made 8 selections this year. Kenneth Grant, Jonah Savainaya, Zeke Biggers, Quinn Ewers, Jordan Phillips, Dante Trader Jr., Jason Marshall Jr. Which one of those 8 players was your favorite? My favorite, probably, I know it's chalky, it is Kenneth Grant. I think he's going to be a stud. I love Kenneth Grant in that first-round pick. But I've said this all along, the best value that the Dolphins got in the entire NFL draft was Quinn Ewers, in my opinion. I gave that pick the highest grade out of this draft class for Miami because I truly do believe, I didn't mention Ollie Gordon the second, by the way, in those draft rooms. I do think the best value was Ewers in the 7th. I thought he was going to be a 5th-round pick, maybe even a fringe 4th-round pick. You get him in midway through the 7th round to be your developmental quarterback. Quinn Ewers was my highest graded pick, but my personal favorite was Kenneth Grant. Fins Up says Kenneth Grant. Jack Ryan says Jordan Phillips. Okay, I like that. Jonah from Zona, Miami Dolphins fan. Kenneth Grant from Robert. Ollie Gordon for Wesley Gray. B-Show says Ollie Gordon. Papa Ken says, not player but positions. Happy finally focused on the trenches. Yeah, a lot of Dolphins fans were upset that they didn't go with a corner in their first 3 picks. I could understand why people would be upset about not going corner with how big of a need that is, but I'm not going to complain that much considering we all talked about trenches being the biggest need for the Fins, and their first 3 picks went D-line, O-line, D-line. So I'm not mad about that whatsoever, especially when I think Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips are both going to be very, very good for Miami. Michaels likes Ollie Gordon. So does Sherry May. Tyson is saying Jason Marshall Jr. only because I used to go to the same summer camp as him. Okay. Will Ollie Gordon play much? Asked him. I don't really think so unless injury occurs. To me, Devon Achane and Jalen Wright are going to be your 2 main backs. They are. Jalen Wright is more of that 3-down specialist, where Devon Achane is that weapon who will obviously get carries but is used a lot in the passing game, jet sweeps, and the whole 9 yards. So I think those 2 will get most of the work. Alexander Madison, the veteran, will get a lot of the 4th and 1, 3rd and 1 goal line opportunities. That's why they signed him. But I think Ollie Gordon will be that role for Miami next year. And if Madison gets hurt or Jalen Wright gets hurt or Devon Achane gets hurt, Gordon is an experienced enough back to fill that void if an injury occurs. So I don't think he'll start and get a lot of PT if Miami's fully healthy at running back. But if an injury happens, I would be comfortable plugging in and playing Ollie Gordon. I would. It's going to be fun to watch him work in the preseason, that's for sure, because he'll get most of the work. Him and Nate Noel, the running back from Missouri that they signed in undrafted free agency, are likely going to get a lot of the carries during the preseason portion. I would expect Jalen Wright gets a lot of preseason run as well, since he's a second-year guy. Achane and Madison, I doubt, get a ton of carry in the preseason. All right, let's move over from the draft to talk about the free agency period now. Who should the Dolphins sign in NFL free agency? I think a lot of people are going to name a cornerback. The top cornerbacks are available. Rasul Douglas, Asante Samuel Jr., Stephon Gilmore, James Bradbury, Mike Hilton, and what was the other one? Shaquille Griffin. Those are the top 6. There's been rumors that the Dolphins are interested in Rasul Douglas. There's also been a little bit of buzz about them reaching out and kind of showing early interest in James Bradbury, which I don't know if I would be that big of a fan there, but that's what they say. That's what they say. Fins Up says Rasul Douglas. We got someone weighing in here. Jonathan Soto, my guy. We'll get that on screen here in just a second. Dark Reaper saying Douglas. Jason is saying stay away from Asante Samuel Jr. May I ask why you want to stay away from Asante Samuel Jr.? But let me see what my guy Jonathan Soto has to say. A $10 super chat. My guy from Melbourne, Florida. I don't trust Rasul Douglas. He has spent multiple years as a practice squad guy for different teams. And look what happened the last time we took a DB from Buffalo, a.k.a. Jordan Poyer. Not a good look. I get the concerns. I do. But I do think he is a top 3 corner available on the market. Like, if you rank the top 3 corners that the Dolphins could sign, I have Asante Samuel Jr. 1, I have Stephon Gilmore 2, and I have Rasul Douglas 3. I would probably put Mike Hilton at 4. I'd probably put Shaq Griffin 5, James Bradbury 6. Probably put James Bradbury 6. I will say, Rasul Douglas is an interesting guy because he is a primarily zone corner. And when he got traded from Green Bay to Buffalo, not last year but the year prior before the deadline, after the trade deadline, he was unbelievably good. But then last year, he really fell off a cliff. Is that because of scheme fit? I don't know. Could he fit in Anthony Weaver's scheme, even though he's a zone corner? I think so, but he's the third guy I would sign. I'd rather have Gilmore, and I would rather have Asante Samuel Jr. So someone asked if Kobe Bryant's still available. No, Kobe Bryant has been signed as a UDFA by the Falcons. The Falcons actually put together a really good UDFA class. They got him and Nick Nash. The wide receiver from San Jose State. Tremaine says James Bradbury. Tim says, any opinion on the Belichick girlfriend disaster? I'll say this. It's certainly something. I don't have a strong opinion on it. I know a lot of people do. It's just surprising, shocking. I think that's the way I go with that. Surprising and shocking. All right, we got 125 people watching. You want the real show to start here, and we get into our first segments. Hit that thumbs up icon. We're at 32. Could we get to 60? Let's get that 50% like mark before we get the show started. We have a fun show on tap for everyone today. This is the 4 segments we are going to do, and we'll start with Dolphins UDFA grades. We'll go through all 16 undrafted free agents Miami signed. I'll give you my grade, a little bit of a breakdown on some of them, and if I think they could make a push for a roster spot. We'll look at Dolphins winners and losers, who on the roster going into the draft are winners and losers following the Dolphins' 24 additions to the roster. We'll look at some early Dolphins cut candidates. And then the last segment we'll do today is about Dolphins trade targets. Who could Miami go out and grab on the veteran market via trade? We know the Dolphins may trade Jalen Ramsey, but hey, we're not talking about trading people away. We're talking about acquiring players on that segment. We'll get that show started when we get to 60-plus likes. We're at 48. Can we get 12 more likes so we can get into some UDFA grades? Hit that thumbs up icon. Come on. Hit that like icon so we can get the show started. Who are going to be the 13 people to get us rolling? Who is it going to be? Ooh, DJ Humphries just signed with the 49ers. Offensive lineman from Arizona. Not Arizona. No, yes. Was playing in Arizona last year. When I said Arizona, like in my mind, I originally thought I was saying college, but I did in fact mean. Yeah. All right, we got to 60 likes. We're at 62 likes. Appreciate everybody hitting that thumbs up icon. With that being said, it's time to get into our first segment of the day, which is some Dolphins UDFA grades. Welcome to Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. On today's episode, we are going to look at every single undrafted free agent that the Dolphins signed, one by one, give you my grade for them, as well as what my overall thoughts are on these players. That's a lot of additions that Chris Grier made. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are putting out daily content on the Miami Dolphins. And today is the last day of the month of April. And if you want to take down and track down the Chiefs report, hit that sub button. But we do go live every Tuesday here, as well as put out content, sometimes 2 videos a day. So make sure you are subscribed. All right, the first player we're going to start with, and we're actually going from my highest grades to the lowest grades, so we'll start with my favorite players first. That being Andrew Armstrong, the wide receiver from Arkansas. This is, without a question, my favorite player that the Dolphins ultimately added in undrafted free agency. He was the leading receiver in the SEC last season. Are you kidding? Like, I'm actually stunned that he made it to undrafted free agency. I know a lot of people in our live chat on day 3 were clamoring for the Dolphins to ultimately draft him. But the reason why I like him is his size, his speed, and his ability to just make plays with the football, man. You see his raw statistics last season. He did not force a lot of tackles, only a 5.3 yak, but had an 8.58 RAS, ran a 4.51 40. But how about these stats, folks, when it comes to Andrew Armstrong? He only had 6 drops over the past 2 seasons. 6 for this past year, 4.9% drop rate. And then the year prior in 2023, it was 2 drops for a 3.4 percentage. And he's also a good contested catch guy. 62.1% contested catch rate last season, converting 18 out of 29 opportunities. 6'4", ran a 4.51. He does not drop the football and is able to go high point the ball as well. The only thing he lacks is a touchdown production, but I think a lot of that is because of the offense that Arkansas runs. And once they got inside the 5-10 yard line, they ran the ball with their QB Dalen Terry and company. So to me, it was Taylor Green. It was definitely Taylor Green, not Taylor. I was thinking of the basketball player Dalen Terry. I don't know why, but either way, Andrew Armstrong is my favorite UDFA that the Dolphins signed, and I think he's really going to make the roster as well. I will give him a tie, though, because the tight end from Texas Tech, Jalen Conyers from the fucking Red Raiders, couldn't think there for a second, I graded as an A as well. I'm a big fan of Jalen Conyers, and I think he could be a really solid project for Mike McDaniel. He is really good with the ball in his hands, which reminds me a lot of Jonnu Smith potentially. Had a career 6.6 yards after catch rate, which is really good. Forced 21 missed tackles in 2022. I get that's 3 years ago or in 3 seasons, but he is elite with the ball in his hands. He has Wildcat experience as well in his collegiate career, throwing 6 of 7 in his collegiate career. So he is someone that I think is good in the ball in his hands. He's improving as a run blocker, and he's got good size as well. I really do believe that Conyers is going to make a push for this roster spot. And outside of Jonnu Smith, this tight end room is very much up in the air with Farrell Brown, Julian Hill, Tanner Connor, Hayden Rucci. I think Jalen Conyers can get it in here and make a noise and make a name for himself. So I'm keeping an eye on him. He is my tie for first in terms of grade for Dolphins UDFAs. But who is your favorite? Mine is Andrew Armstrong and Jalen Conyers. It's a tie for first, but let me know who your favorite UDFA is that the Dolphins signed. They had 16 of them. Just drop your favorite down below. Maybe it's BJ Adams, the DB from UCF. And this one's an interesting one to me because, well, he was brought in to a top 30 visit for the Fins. So someone Miami clearly valued. They wanted to get to know BJ Adams. 6'1", 3/4, 187 pounds. He's a physical man cover corner. He is not going to specialize in playing zone. He struggled in that rate, but he is a physical guy who likes to get his hands on you and get into his man-to-man coverage. One thing that Dolphins fans will probably like about BJ Adams, he is a strong tackler. Doesn't have a ton of attempts at tackling, but missed 0 tackles last season. 0! And only had a 7.5% missed tackle rate in his entire career at the college level. That is extremely good for a college corner. BJ Adams, a player that here at Chat Sports we thought could go early 7th round, late 6th round, ended up slipping to undrafted free agency for Miami. Big fan of this signing by the Fins. I also give him a tie with another DB, that being John Saunders Jr., the safety from Ole Miss. So I gave Conyers and Armstrong both A's. I give Saunders Jr. and Adams both A-. And I like Saunders Jr., man. He was a late addition to this UDFA class. He's got great size. He's 6'2". He's got good explosiveness. His RAS was very solid in terms of his broad jump, his vertical jump. So he's a big safety that is explosive in the air, which allows him to get his hands on a lot of football. He's a ball hawk, man. He had 3 interceptions last year for the Ole Miss defense, but he also forced 4 fumbles. He is physical in the run game. He is able to recover. Doesn't have the best speed, but because of that explosiveness in his lower half and his size, he's able to get his hands and contest a lot of balls in the air. I like John Saunders Jr. a lot, and he is one of my favorites. Definitely one of my top 4. I think he can make a push with this roster as well. All right, the linebacker from Auburn, Eugene Asante, I give him a B+. This is an experienced collegiate player that spent 3 years at Auburn, spent 3 years at North Carolina. But the reason why I think he has a chance to stick in this Dolphins organization is because of his special teams ability. First of all, he's an athlete. He ran a 4.48 40, which at his size, that will absolutely play. He has 727 career special team snaps. So as I mentioned, if you are a UDFA, the best chance you have of making an NFL roster right off the bat is finding a niche role on special teams. With his size, his ability to tackle, only having an 11.3 career missed tackle percentage, which for someone who plays 6 seasons is very, very good. The special teams, the speed, the size, the missed tackle percentage, I think Asante could find a role on special teams, and I'm putting Channing Tindall on notice right now. If he's cut before the regular season and before 53-man roster day, I think it's because Eugene Asante ultimately took his spot. All right, we're going to go from a B+ to a B- here for Theo Wease Jr., the wide receiver from Missouri. He is a physical wide receiver. He lacks explosiveness. He has relatively solid hands. But to me, when you see the 4 Dolphins wide receivers that were signed in undrafted free agency, I can't put him anywhere close to Andrew Armstrong, but I can put him ahead of A.J. Henning. And I'm spacing on the other one. Who was the other one from? It was Monaray Baldwin from Baylor, excuse me. I like Theo a little bit more than him. They threw a little bit of money at him, $230K in undrafted free agency, so clearly like him a little bit. I like Armstrong more, but I give Wease Jr. from Missouri a B-. Next up is Ethan Robinson, the corner from Minnesota. He lacks explosiveness. He does. He's not the most athletic corner. I don't think he has that good of an ability to recover if beat either. I think he ran a 4.6 kind of 40, maybe mid 4.5s. So he's not the most explosive athlete. 5'10", so doesn't have great size either. Just if you're looking and comparing positions that the Dolphins signed in undrafted free agency, I think B.J. Adams has an infinitely better chance to make the roster over Robinson. I could say the same thing about Andrew Armstrong over Theo Wease Jr., which is why those two guys got an A and A- respectively, and both Robinson and Wease, although good players, productive at the college level, only got a B-. All right, more UDFAs to break down here on the channel, but hey, get your Dolphins jerseys today, whether you want to be the rookie first-round pick Kenneth Grant, second-round pick Jonas Savaiinaea, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill. It does not matter. You want to get a Dolphins jersey, chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey is the link in the description, comments. It'll get you on sale right now. Take advantage. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Once again. All right, we're going to go up to a B here for a couple offensive linemen. We'll go Josh Preeb, the O-lineman from Michigan. I think this is a player that needs to be talked about a little bit more, to be honest. I think we have a couple hidden gems in undrafted free agency on the offensive line. This was a 4-year starter. Spent 5 years at the college level. He spent 4 years at Northwestern, the last year at Michigan, but he was a 3-year starter for the Wildcats and then started last year for the Wolverines. He's also got explosive ability. And we know, and I hate to keep on harping on this fact, but for the Dolphins O-line, they need athletes on that O-line because they run a ride zone scheme. They need people to get to the next level and to the outside quicker than other schemes. And you see it on screen. 9.23 RAS. Had good broad jump, good vertical numbers, decent 40-yard dash numbers as well. He's experienced. He was a leader at Northwestern and Michigan, and with that athleticism, he will absolutely fight for his life to make this Dolphins roster. But a player that I don't think can be slept on either is the Western Michigan offensive lineman, Addison West. So we got Preeb from Michigan, West from Western Michigan. Similar to Preeb, he's a superb athlete. Has elite explosion, ranking in the 9s of both vertical and broad jump. Great speed as well, also ranking in the upper echelon. I believe it was 8.5, and he's just undersized. That's the one issue for Addison West, but he had an 8.47 RAS, so he's a good athlete. He put up unbelievably good numbers for the Broncos in the MAC last season. 94.9 overall PFF grade, 94.4 run blocking grade, 0 sacks, only 1 penalty. Look at these grades, man. And I know he's playing lower competition, but it's hard for me not to get excited about Addison West, the offensive lineman, with his athleticism, as well as what he put on tape last season. Could be a riser for the Fins. All right, we're going to stay on the offensive line here with Ted Kushi, the offensive lineman from Western Michigan, another Bronco here. He is very interesting in size. He came in at 6'5". He's got decent speed. His PFF numbers aren't great. They're in the mid-60s. And I do like his size, and I do like his athleticism combination, but I'm not really sold on him making this roster. I also think it's going to be difficult to make this roster on the offensive tackle department because you got Patrick Paul, you have Larry Borum, you have Austin Jackson, and maybe they keep, one more offensive tackle. I think I could see that being Ryan Hayes, Braden Daniels, but hey, maybe Ted Kushi can make a run for it, play tackle for the Western Michigan Broncos. All right, we'll get over to some of my lower grades here. Nate Noel, the running back from Missouri, undersized, 5'7", 5'8", and unfortunately, he's not a burner. It's not like he's a 5'7" running back that's running a 4.3 40 or anything like that. So he's a stocky, small stature running back, and with Miami's running back room that they have in Jalen Wright, Devon Achane, Alexander Madison, Ollie Gordon, to me, there's no room for Noel to make this roster. Listen, he'll try. He'll get some carries in the preseason for sure, but I gave it a C+ because I don't see the Dolphins keeping more than 4 running backs, and to me, I think running back is set. Unless the Dolphins get a catastrophic injury, I think those 4 I just mentioned of Gordon, Achane, Wright, and Madison are going to be your 4 running backs on the 53-man roster. Another C+ grade here for A.J. Henning, the wide receiver from Northwestern. Not the biggest wide receiver, and he didn't showcase the best, change of direction, didn't showcase the best athleticism in his pro day or anything like that. So I'm not really sold on A.J. Henning. As I mentioned, Wease was a little bit more productive in a tougher conference in the SEC. Andrew Armstrong was the best wide receiver in the SEC last year in terms of production. I don't really buy A.J. Henning being someone to stick around here on the Fins. Alex Huntley, the defensive lineman from South Carolina, not the most explosive athlete either. I don't think Huntley was very productive at South Carolina either. Not a fan of his addition. But there is a spot on this roster for another defensive lineman, although they drafted Zeke Biggers, drafted Jordan Phillips, drafted Kenneth Grant. They have Benito Jones and Zach Sealer. They likely need 6 guys. Right now they have 5 guys, so there is another roster spot available for a defensive lineman. Maybe Huntley can fight out Matt Dickerson for that role. We'll ultimately see. Another C grade here for Neeland Hibbett, the long snapper from Alabama. Not going to discuss much about a long snapper. Sorry, it's not going to do it. I give it a C. Hard to really know if he's a stud or not. Last player we're going to talk about today here, or second to last, Monaray Baldwin, the wide receiver for Baylor, the person who escaped my name or my mind earlier in this video. Not good athlete whatsoever. Wasn't productive for the Bears, and I think his RAS was in the 2s. Yeah, I'm not kidding. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was like a 2.83 or something like that. So not productive, not athletic. Not really sure what Miami's thinking here with Monaray Baldwin. And then the last one, also the last signing they had. This was the most recent UDFA signing. He wasn't in our initial UDFA tracker video on Sunday afternoon, but it's Seyi Oladipo, not related to Victor Oladipo, to my best knowledge. Safety from Boise State, another unathletic safety. C-, ran a 4.67 40, I believe, so he's not quick enough to cover sideline to sideline at the next level, in my opinion. He also wasn't the best at Boise State. I give it a C-. Him and Baldwin were no doubt my least favorite offensive or UDFAs that the Dolphins had. All right, grade the Dolphins UDFA class A, B, C, D, or F. We had one of the largest UDFA classes that we had in the entire NFL. I mean, 16 players is absolutely egregious. Grade the overall UDFA class A, B, C, D, or F. Like what I gave the Dolphins draft class of 8 players, I'm going to give it a B+. I actually like what Miami did here. Obviously, as you saw, big fan of Andrew Armstrong. Really like Jalen Conyers. I think B.J. Adams from UCF and John Saunders Jr. could both fight for a roster spot. I like Eugene Asante's ability on the special teams end. And then you see some of these offensive linemen, like Addison West and Josh Preeb. Would not shock me one bit if one of those 2 players was on the 53-man roster. Not one bit. I really don't. I like Addison West a lot. He put up great numbers last year for Western Michigan. Preeb has got good leadership and experience between Northwestern and Michigan. I like what Miami did here. Some of these bottom UDFAs out on, but the first 5 or 6 we named, I'm a fan. I'll go B+. And continue to make sure you are subscribed because we'll break down content here every single day, sometimes 2 videos a day. And if you're still watching the video. I clearly like what we're doing a little bit here, so hit that sub button. All right, UDFA grades in the book. UDFA grades in the book. We got a couple super chats to get on screen. 1 second. We got Building Fins Up, my guy. $10 super chat. What's up? I had a lot of uncertainty on decisions during the draft, but every day I am liking what we did more and more. Has given me more trust in Grier, but I'm very nervous about our secondary. Building Fins Up. I am too. I am very, very concerned about the secondary. Safety and cornerback room. But the truth is, the Dolphins needed to get a upgrade in the trenches. They have a starting offensive line. All 5 of their guys, Patrick Paul, James Daniels, Jonas Savaiinaea, Austin Jackson, Aaron Brewer. Their scheme fits. We don't know what Savaiinaea is going to be. We don't know what Patrick Paul is going to be. But at least we know it's not going to be Liam Eichenberg. That's a win. And then you got 3 defensive linemen in the draft. 2 of them I think are going to be day one difference makers. Jordan Phillips, solid nose tackle, run stopper. Kenneth Grant, hybrid nose tackle, 3-tech in my opinion. Excited, man. Excited. Tyson says B. Crazy Finn says B+. Sherry May says B. B+ from Zcash. Paul says changing my vote from C to B for undrafted free agents. Okay. Dance King says B+. XI is saying what's up. What's up, XI? I saw someone in the chat say about me saying Addison West undersized. I want to read the comment. Mark Smith says Addison West is too little at 6'3", 305. Yes. He is. When looking at his RAS, ready for this, Justin? He actually came in at 6'2 and a half, 300 pounds at his pro day. 6'2 and a half, 300 pounds. The RAS for offensive guards for prospects, 6'2", 300, height 6'2", 2.09 out of 10, and weight 300, 2.69.
Yeah, you need at least to be 320.
I'd say like 315 for guards is kind of where you want to be at minimum. 315 gets you a solid grade there. The height, I'm not that concerned about the height, but to me, you want your guards to be 6'3 and change, 6'4, 315, 320. That's my thing. That's mine. Like, for example, Jonas Savaiinaea, 6'4", 320, 5. That's a guard right there. That's an NFL guard. So that's kind of my thing. It's like, yeah, on paper he's not undersized, but he actually is. See, Julio's saying 6'2", 300 is not small. Yeah, for the average person, but for NFL offensive linemen, it is small. It is small, man. I appreciate Ruski and appreciate... Oh, did we get Ruski? Oh, we didn't get Ruski's $20 super chat on screen. Thought we did. Shout out to Ruski for the $20 super chat. Legend. My man, what's up? Armstrong is the wide receiver version of Storm Duck, and he's going to ball in the preseason. Can't wait to see him play. I am very excited as well. And we talked about what Miami needed this offseason at wide receiver. Because coming into the offseason, you had under contract Tyreek Hill, 5'10", undersized, speed guy. Jalen Waddle, 5'11", speed guy. Malik Washington, like 5'7", 5'8", slot wide receiver, special teams guy. But you add Nick Westbrook-Ikini, 6'2", 211, beat you in multiple ways. Add Andrew Armstrong and undrafted free agency, 6'4", beat you in multiple ways. Like, I like the additions of the offensive line, or excuse me, wide receiver for Miami. And I will talk about it because I have a cut candidates video we're going to film in a couple minutes. I have already predicted if the Dolphins keep 6 wide receivers, which Some teams keep 6. Some teams keep 5 wide receivers. If Miami kept 6, I have my list of 6. I got to be honest, though. I'm calling the shot now, and maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I actually think Andrew Armstrong might make the roster even if they only keep 5 wide receivers. I do. I think he's a stud, man. Not a stud. It's hard to say stud for an undrafted free agent. Let me just say he's someone that I certainly do not think will be or should have been an undrafted free agent. Tim asks how tall I am. I'm 6'2". I'm 6'2". How do I test out? I certainly would not be a good offensive lineman. I'm coming in at 6'2", 185. I don't know how I would test out with everything else. It'd be fun, though. I don't think my broad jump would be very good. And my vertical would be, I don't think it would be horrible. I really don't.
Do you not know your vertical?
I can't dunk. I can easily standing, 2 feet standing, grab rim. On a good day, I can maybe rim graze, but I wouldn't say I'm a consistent dunker at 6'2", so I don't know. It's hard. I don't know my vertical now. And I'm curious to see if I ran a 40, what it would be. Probably not great. Probably not great. I think I could run a sub 5 for sure. I would actually be pretty disappointed in myself if I can't run a sub 4 or 5.
Yeah, you should be able to.
I'm actually sneaky quick. I wouldn't say I'm fast, but I think I'm sneaky quick. If you had to guess what your 40 would be, what would it be, Justin?
I bet if you gave me 2 or 3 weeks before I tested, I think I can maybe get it to 4.6.
4.6? Now, what if I told you to go out and run it right now, 40-yard dash?
Probably 4.8, high 4.7s. Okay.
How many reps am I getting at 225 bench? Probably not a lot. It's hard to... So, the last time... I don't bench often. I've said this. I do dumbbell bench press when I do dumbbell incline and dumbbell normal chest press. So, I don't really do a lot of barbell bench press. But the last time I did do barbell bench press, what is 45 times 3? What is that? 135? No, I'm not that. I'm talking 145 on each side.
Oh, that's 135.
That's 135. That's what I did when I did bench press barbell a month ago. So I feel and I did that for 8 reps. So I think there's a way to calculate how much you do 8 reps for to get max bench press. I don't know. 225, I've never done it. I would be scared to do it because I've never tried it. But I would hope that I would be able to get 2 or 3 reps. I'm not gonna claim I'm not that yoked. I'm not claiming to be that strong. So I would hope to get 1 or 2. Maybe I can't. Maybe I'm overselling myself. I don't know. You give me a bunch of pre-workout and put me on the bench. Maybe I'll grab 1 or 2. It is what it is. All right, let's move on to our next segment here at Dolphins Today. Appreciate y'all. Y'all are a lot of fun to just hang out and talk. Who do you think will be QB2 for the Dolphins this year? Absolutely will be Zach Wilson. I like Quinn Ewers a lot. He will be practice squad. I don't think they'll keep him on the... it's tough. I don't know if they'll keep him on the active roster, active 53-man, or be a practice squad every week be the emergency quarterback. We'll see. I guess it depends on how he performs in preseason. Because if he looks good in the preseason, you can't really risk putting him on the practice squad because that means he's eligible for another team to sign him.
How many quarterbacks do they typically keep?
They have kept 2 with 1 on the practice squad. Like last year, it was Tua at the start of the year, Skylar Thompson, and that was it. And then they had a practice squad guy. So it's tough. Who knows? All right, let's move into the post-draft winners and losers for Miami Dolphins. 2025 NFL Draft wrapped up last weekend, and I think it's a great time to look at who is the winners, who are the losers from the Dolphins roster. All people we talk about on today's show were on the roster before the NFL Draft. And then with how the draft played out, whose spots could be in jeopardy, who got a boost, and who is ready to roll for this upcoming season. The first winner that we're going to talk about is QB1, Tua Tagovailoa. Why is he a winner? Well, it's because Chris Grier got the offensive line finalized. And you could have made this statement after free agency when they went out and signed James Daniels to a 3-year, $24 million deal. But we have begged Chris Grier and company to finally address the trenches, improve the trenches. And to me, this projected starting group of 5 has been massively upgraded from last year. The only spot where I can confidently say is worse than last year is left tackle, because you had a top 5 left tackle in Teron Armstead, but he retired. You couldn't control that. And you drafted Patrick Paul in the second round of last year's draft, 2024, to be his understudy and long-term heir, right? So he finally goes into that role now. I think you plug in James Daniels at left guard. Aaron Brewer is going to be solid at center once again. Austin Jackson returns from right tackle, but you traded up in the second round to grab Jonah Sava-Inaya, who is going to be a starting right guard for you right away. And to me, I think this group is much better than last year. And I'll be honest, I'm going to put high aspirations and hopes on this roster. Do I think they're going to be able to win multiple playoff games and win a Super Bowl? No, I do not. I think they're far away from that. But when you look on the offensive end, there's no reason why this team in offense shouldn't be back in the top 10 of almost every metric this upcoming year. Last year was disappointing. They were a bottom half team offensively in football. A lot of that was because Tua missed 6 games, and in the beginning of the year, they were horrific on the offensive end. But with that offensive line, you finally address the trenches. I mean, James Daniel and Jonah Sava-Inaya, unbelievable, like infinitely time better than Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg. You have Jackson returning from injury, Brewer back again. Like, I know Patrick Paul's a question mark, but this offensive line should be hugely improved from last year. Tua should have more time to throw. The running game should be better, especially inside the trenches with Daniels and Sava-Inaya coming along. I expect this Dolphins offense to be top 10 in scoring, top 10 in probably yards per game, and hopefully they are able to do that, and Mike McDaniel and this scheme is able to get back to what it was in 2023 and having a good top 10 offense. All right, make sure you are following us over on Instagram. Dolphins Today IG is our handle. We are 49 followers away from 900. When we get to 1,000, we are going to do something special. So go give us a follow. More content in between our Dolphins YouTube videos over on our IG. Dolphins Today IG is where you go follow. The first loser that I want to talk about, it's actually Patrick McMorris, the safety. Remember, he was drafted in the 6th round of the 2024 NFL Draft out of Cal, and I thought he was going to have a chance to compete for a starting role in this draft. I no longer think that's going to be the case. I mean, he sure can compete, and if he just looks better than everyone else, it's going to be hard not to give it to him. But the reason why I think Patrick Morris is a loser, they drafted a safety in the 5th round, Dante Trader Jr., and we know the Dolphins needed to add a safety to the room. I thought they might have went out in free agency and grabbed a Justin Simmons, a Diggs, a Julian Blackmon, but they drafted Dante Trader Jr. out of Maryland in the 5th round, which obviously, you can do math, is a full round higher than what they drafted McMorris in the 2024 draft. So they clearly valued Trader this year more than they valued McMorris last year. But Miami also added 2 safeties in undrafted free agency out of Ole Miss, John Saunders Jr., who I am relatively high on. I think he's one of the top 4 UDFAs Miami signed. And they also added Seyi Oladipo from Boise State. Not very high on him. But the truth is, when you add 3 safeties over the weekend and you add them to the room that features Ifeatu Melifonwu, Ashton Davis, McMorris, Elijah Campbell, that's a lot of competition. Now, I still have high hopes for McMorris because I think he's got a good blend of size at 6 foot. He's got decent speed, and I liked what I saw a little bit in those preseason games before he got hurt, which cost him the first half of the season, and he was able to only come in and play like 20 snaps in the last 2 weeks of the year after the Dolphins released Marcus May. I still believe McMorris can make a dent on this roster, but when you add 3 safeties over the weekend, that definitely puts him, Elijah Campbell, those depth safeties more in question when it comes to having a guaranteed roster spot. All right, let me ask you this question as we move on here. What are your expectations for the Dolphins in 2025? Give me what you would be happy with. Is it just a playoff win, division crown, 8 wins? I don't know. Mine is a playoff win. I want to see Miami. It's not my expectations, but I want to see Miami make the playoffs for the 3rd time in the last 4 years and finally win a playoff game to end that drought. No one's on my expectations, but that's what I hope for. All right, winner, Zach Sealer, the defensive lineman. Boy, oh boy, did he need help on this defensive line. And thank goodness, Chris Grier finally went out and got it for him. Because coming into the NFL draft, the D-line was bare. And when I mean bare, I mean really, really bare. You only had Zach Sealer, Benito Jones, and Matt Dickerson on the roster. Neil Farrell, too. You added 4 players. 13th overall pick, Kenneth Grant. He'll be your second defensive lineman. Can play 1 tech, can play 3 tech. I think his explosiveness and motor will be something on display right away for Dolphins fans. You drafted Jordan Phillips in the 5th round to be that nose tackle alongside Benito Jones. You added Zeke Biggers in the 7th round. You added Alex Huntley in undrafted free agency. There might be still room for one more addition, whether it's a veteran free agent or someone in the trade market. But Zach Sealer going into the draft was going to be the Popeyes worker? Or that's the meme sitting outside with the head down? That was Zach Sealer. Like, he was going to have to do everything. He was going to get absolutely hounded. You added 3 rookies. You added 2 of them in the first 3 picks of your draft, and it's only going to benefit Zach Sealer, who's been, one of my opinion, one of the most criminally underrated players, not just on the Dolphins, but in the entire National Football League this past 4 seasons. I mean, 2 years ago, he had 10 sacks when working hand-in-hand with Christian Wilkins. And then last season, he had another 10 sacks alongside 13 TFLs working with Calais Campbell. It's going to be more difficult for him this year for sure, not having a proven veteran like Wilkins or Campbell alongside him. But he is one of the most hard-nosed, hardest-working, gritty players in the National Football League. I thought you could argue that he was the best player on the Miami Dolphins, period, last season. Not the defense, just the entire roster. The best one. And he is going to be a force to be reckoned with on that interior defensive line, hopefully, once again. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are still going to bring you Dolphins coverage every single day. Videos are coming out twice a day at times as well. Every rumor, news, segment, trade rumor, we'll have you covered. Hit that sub button right now. Let's have another loser here. Liam Eichenberg, the offensive lineman who re-signed with the Dolphins in free agency on a 1-year deal, which I was stunned on. I thought Chris Grier and this coaching staff was finally going to rid themselves of Eichenberg after 4 horrible seasons. But he is a loser because coming into the draft, he was going to have a chance to compete for a starting job. He was. There was nobody there to compete with him outside of Larry Borum for a potential starting left guard spot. But he's finally not in line to start. When you trade up in the 2nd round to grab Jonah Savignaya, the offensive lineman from Arizona, with the 37th pick, you are projecting, you are anticipating that he is going to be one of your starting offensive linemen in week 1 this upcoming season. And boy, oh boy, thank goodness he is, because we do not have to watch this man play for us, hopefully, anymore. Now, he is going to be one of your top depth pieces on the offensive line for sure. There's no debating that. But I'm not going to be that upset about that because he has starting experience. He understands the Mike McDaniel scheme and offense, and he could play left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. He's versatile. He has experience. It's not the worst depth piece. But as long as he is not your full 17-game starter, that is going to make me very happy. And if I'm going to be honest, the number one thing I could have put as Dolphins winners and losers on this video is Dolphins fans. The fact we don't have to watch Liam Eichenberg trot out there in the starting offensive line unit anymore, hallelujah, man. Oh, my goodness. Now, I don't want to be mean to the guy. I don't, because by all accounts, he's a nice guy. He's been nice to the media. He's a good locker room dude. But the guy sucks at playing football. And unfortunately, that's the bottom line here in the National Football League. Winner, Cam Smith. Yeah, didn't expect to have Cam Smith on the winners list going into the NFL draft, but it is abundantly clear to me that he is going to have another chance once again to have a role on this Dolphins football team. And now, like I said, Dolphins fans were winners for Liam Eichenberg and for the draft pick of Jonas Savvy-Inaya. Well, the Dolphins fans aren't winners with him being the cornerback 2 on this roster right now. Seriously. Like, this is a tough watch, man. This is a tough watch. When you look at the cornerback room for Miami, Cater Kohu returns. Jalen Ramsey is still on the roster, but that likely spot is going to be vacant very soon. I mean, the corners you have outside of Ramsey and Kohu on the roster currently are brutal. Second-year UDFA Storm Duck. Cam Smith, trust him absolutely 0%. Ethan Bonner, Artie Burns, and Jason Marshall Jr. You draft in the 5th round. Like, this room is, I would argue it's the worst cornerback room in football. And I don't think I'm going to meet a lot of resistance arguing that either. But when you don't draft one high, and Jason Marshall Jr. was your only corner that you drafted, and it was a 5th-round pick, well then, yeah, the former 2nd-round pick out of South Carolina is going to be a winner because he has a chance to become a starting boundary corner for this team once again. And I don't think that's a good thing, especially when you saw how he played last season. Didn't play his rookie season with Vic Fangio. Missed the first 4 games of the season last year due to injury. Came back and was horrific. Played 103 snaps in coverage. Got tortured. I mean, I'll never forget that game against the Bills in Week 9. That game against Arizona in Week 8. Absolutely horrid, man. It was absolutely horrid. He got cooked. I mean, you just see the completion percentage allowed. You see the QB reading when targeted. No PBUs, a lot of touchdown. He was terrible. He has one last chance to turn his career around because if he gets hurt again in the preseason or if he has a bad preseason and bad training camp, there's a legitimate chance that he is cut before the season, and there's nothing that would make me upset about that based off what I've seen throughout his career so far. All right, before I give you my confidence level, let me know yours. What is your confidence level in Cam Smith being a starting corner for the Miami Dolphins this upcoming season? Scout 1 to 10 for me down in the comment section. 2.1. And I'll be honest, that might be generous. I'll give the guy credit because he's got good size. He had relatively solid speed coming out of college, but he has just not put it together whatsoever. And you hope that something clicks year 2 under Anthony Weaver. He's able to stay healthy, and the Dolphins get 2 more years of good Cam Smith under a rookie contract. That nothing would be awesome for Miami more than that, but I unfortunately don't see it. All right, the final winner. It's a little dual combination here. 2 veteran edge rushers, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. So we have 4 winners. We have 2 losers on this video. I'd like to be a little bit more positive on today's episode. But why are Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips winners? Well, it's because Miami added no edges. Not one. With the Dolphins 8 pick, they did not take 1 edge. And in an undrafted free agency, they didn't sign an edge. Like, I think Miami and Chris Grier clearly expects Jalen Phillips coming off of a torn ACL, missing basically the whole last season, Bradley Chubb, who did miss all of last season, to come back and be their prominent selves in 2025. So your edge room, barring injury, is practically set. It's Chop Robinson, it's Bradley Chubb, it's Jalen Phillips, it's second-year man, 5th-round pick last year, Mohamed Kamara, and then Quinn Bell, who you re-signed to a 1-year deal in free agency. Those are your 5 edges. The Dolphins kept 5 edges active every game last season, and I think those are going to be the projected 5 barring injury before the season starts. Phillips should be ready week 1. Bradley Chubb will be ready week 1. And then you obviously know Chop Mo and Quinn Bell are going to be ready. So those are your 5. And those 2 veterans and Phillips and Chubb, they're winners because the Dolphins didn't add a single one. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate everybody tuning in here on this episode of Dolphins Today. Continue to be subscribed as we are bringing you daily content here on the channel. So hit that sub button right now. Oof. Not a lot of confidence from the Finns fans on Cam Smith, Justin. -1, 2. Those are the only 2 people. But boy, those are ugly. I see another 1. By the way, while we were filming that video, Jonathan Hankins, D tackle, signed to the Seahawks. Is it a re-signing? Ugh. 3.4. Negative infinity from Tyson. Time Man says 4. Andre says -5. Sherry May, 0.08. I don't know if you're cold. I tell you what, though, with that door shut, it doesn't feel that bad in here. It is the hallway. I'm telling you. I've said this before. It's the hallway and that side. I'm not cold. I mean, I am wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants, but I'm not cold. Yeah, those nipples are something else. I did see Elwood. Andrew Van Ginkel got a $23 million extension 1 year with the Vikings today. That was a mistake from Chris Grier letting him walk. No question about that. No question about that. All right, no super chats to talk about here in between shows. So as we get to 6 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Central time, let's move over to our next segment, which is 5 Dolphins cut candidates following the 2025 NFL Draft. Let me take a sip of water, and then we'll get into this one. All right, let's get into the next segment on today's show. The 2025 NFL Draft saw Miami add 8 players in the draft. They saw 16 undrafted free agents get signed. And on today's show, we're going to look at 5 Miami Dolphins cut candidates following the NFL Draft, where Miami added 24 total players. Before I give you my 5 players, you might have saw 2 of them on the thumbnail and title, but who could the Dolphins cut? Before I give you my 5, I want to see who you could go with. Call your shot for me down in the comment section. You just want to get it in and restart there. Yeah, we could do that. Little graphical issue, folks, so we're going to restart that segment here in 1 second. Give us one. Give us one. Give us one more segment. Ugh. One second here, and then we'll get that segment going again. How are the people feeling in the chat? How y'all doing today? While we get the graphics set up, how y'all doing? How y'all feeling, man? We good now? Did any of you guys see the video we put out today? The story of Jonah Sevi-Inaya and how the Dolphins might have sniped the Patriots in that draft? Oh, Mark Smith, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Great to hear. Yeah, I guess I should have asked that. Anyone see that video I put out this morning? 17 subscribers on that video earlier. That's right. Tyson saw it. Shout out to you. Shout to you. All right. It looks like we're all good to go, so let's talk about Dolphins cut candidates. The Miami Dolphins added 24 players during the NFL draft, 8 in the 7 rounds, and then 16 undrafted free agents. And on today's show, we're going to look at 5 potential cut candidates that Miami could get off of the roster with all of the new rookies joining. Before we get into those players, I want to get your thoughts. Call it now. Before I give you the 5 players I think could get cut by the Fins, who do you think the Dolphins could cut? Get down in the comment section and let me know your best answer. First player that I think the Dolphins could get cut, Julian Hill, the tight end. And maybe I'm a little biased because I want Julian Hill to get cut, but I do legitimately think there's a chance he ultimately gets the X from this roster. And with every player that we could talk about today, I'll let you guys know the cap savings. If you cut Julian Hill, it would save you $1 million in cap space. But yeah, Julian Hill is not a good football player. And I'm kind of sick of him on the roster. And I know a lot of people might go out there and say, well, he has experience. He's a blocking tight end. What can you expect? Well, the tight end room for Miami is interesting because you have Jonnu Smith, who's coming off of a franchise record season last year, literally set the single-season record for receptions and receiving yards. But Julian Hill is terrible. You already cut Durham Smythe. You signed Pharaoh Brown to a 1-year deal. Tanner Connor remains on the roster. Hayden Rucci is back after being a UDFA last year. And then you signed undrafted free agent Jalen Conyers, Texas Tech, who I am pretty high on. You gave him $130K, which was a relatively nice UDFA contract. So you clearly believe at least something for the Texas Tech Red Raider. But this is the reason why I think Julian Hill could be cut. I think when we get to training camp, we could see Pharaoh Brown outplay Julian Hill. And I like what the UDFA Jalen Conyers brings to the table, man. He's got great yards after catch, 6.6 career yak at the college level, has Wildcat experience, literally 6 to 7 throwing, has a touchdown pass. He's experienced. He's improving as a run blocker, good with the ball in his hands. Like, I'm telling you this right now. I could absolutely see the Dolphins rolling with a tight end room of 3 guys, and those 3 tight ends are Jonnu Smith, Pharaoh Brown, and Jalen Conyers. And I don't think Julian Hill is that good regardless. Like, the one thing that he is known for is his ability to block. But he's not that good at blocking. He's not. And that's the common misconception about Julian Hill. He's not good. In 2023, he was penalized 4 times and had grades in the low 40s. And then it was even worse in 2024. 37.2, 51.5 pass block, 41.0 run block. And he was penalized 7 times. And you think 7 penalties is a lot, but it somehow felt like more penalties from Julian Hill this past season. He is not a good blocker. I think he's bad in actual running routes and catching the football. I think his time on the Dolphins is going to be very, very short. I'm going to put Patrick Morris on the list, and this one might be the most surprising. 6th-round pick in 2024 out of Cal. Dolphins used 2 6th-round picks on Malik Washington and McMorris, but the reason why I think McMorris could be a cut candidate is because how many safeties are now on the roster. We'll get to that in 1 second, but the savings that you have if you cut McMorris is not very good. And I would say if you cut him, it has to probably be post-June 1st. Saves you $960,000 in cap space. So the cutting Patrick McMorris, it's not because you'd be able to save money. There's no reason for that. But the reason why I could see him being cut is because what you've added and what you have on this room. Obviously, Jordan Poyer and Javon Holland are gone. You signed Ifeatu Melifonwu and Ashton Davis in free agency. You drafted Dante Trader Jr. out of Maryland in the 5th round, a full round ahead of what you drafted McMorris in 2024. You still have Elijah Campbell, who you brought back, and he is such a key piece on the special teams unit that you almost expect him to be on the safety unit as well because he gives you safety depth as well as special teams value. And then another reason is that you added 2 UDFAs, John Saunders Jr. out of Ole Miss and Sehi Oladipo from Boise State. I like Patrick Morris a lot. I do. I think he's solid. And I liked what I saw from him in the couple preseason games before he got hurt. But he's going to need a strong summer to keep a roster spot for sure. Because when you draft a safety in the 5th round and Dante Trader Jr., and then you sign 2 undrafted free agents, yeah, I absolutely expect his spot to be in jeopardy. So that's why I label him as a Dolphins cut candidate. All right, the next cut candidate will be revealed shortly. But when Dolphins news roster news drops, we'll make a video. Hit that sub button today, because if the Dolphins end up cutting anyone, we will have you covered on when they do that. Join the channel right now. All right, the next cut candidate here. It's a punter, Jake Bailey. This actually has nothing to do with what happened in the NFL draft and undrafted free agency, but this is just the most obvious cut candidate on the Miami Dolphins roster. It's inevitable. Like, no offense, Mr. Bailey. You are currently employed by the Miami Dolphins, but there is no chance that you will be employed by September. Why? Well, if you cut Jake Bailey, it saves you $1.9 million in cap. And by the way, that's the most money you could save by cutting a player basically on this roster that could be cut and is expendable. But this has nothing to do with the draft, like I mentioned. It has to do with free agency. First of all, I've been out on Jake Bailey for a while. I think he sucks. I don't think he has good hang time. I don't think he angles his punts that well. I've been out on Jake Bailey for a very long time. But and the reason why he is absolutely being cut is because they signed Ryan Stonehouse. And Ryan Stonehouse, if you remember, in 2022 was an undrafted rookie and set the record for yards per punt average and was an all-pro. Now, then he got an injury in 2023 and was okay in 2024. But you also have to take into consideration the new special teams coach for Miami is Craig Aukerman. Craig Aukerman coached the Titans special teams in 2022 when Stonehouse was the punter. So obviously Stonehouse has a lot of liking with Aukerman. Jake Bailey's going to get cut. And I don't know why they're waiting on it. You might as well just do it now. Next Dolphins cut candidate, Channing Tindall, the linebacker. I labeled him as a cut candidate last year, but he ultimately had a good enough preseason, good enough training camp to make the roster, and he did have some value on special teams, was inactive a lot as well. This cut would save you $1.4 million in cap space, so not the most. It is the second most out of this 5-person list, just behind Jake Bailey in terms of cut. But here's the thing, folks. Remember, he was drafted 102nd overall. He's played 3 years in the NFL. It's the final year of his rookie contract. And he's done nothing up to this point in his career. Absolutely nothing. So when you are entering the last year of your contract, you've done nothing. What's the point of keeping you? Seriously, what is? Why not give a chance to a UDFA like Eugene Asante, who has been solid on special teams in his 6-year college career? Ran a 4.48 40-yard dash. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense to hold on to Tindall. The former 3rd-round pick out of Georgia has not been good. In the 44 games he's been suited up for, he's only had 16 tackles and not have a tackle for loss. Most of those tackles are on special teams as well. It just doesn't make sense for me to hold on to Tindall. You know what you have in Tindall. Might as well try to keep a UDFA or another youthful player that hasn't got the opportunities that Tindall has got, because it's clear that he is not going to do anything as a member of the Dolphins. All right, we do have a hoodie on sale. This white hoodie. I love this hoodie. Go Fins. Got the palm tree, the Miami Dolphins logo. First of all, I just love white hoodies. I don't know why. I should not like them because I'm a mess when I eat and they get dirty way too quick. But either way, grab yours today. Chatsports.com/Dolphins hoodie. $40 off when you go to Chatsports/Dolphins hoodie. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Final cut candidate on this episode, Eric Ezukanma, the wide receiver. Another former relatively solid high draft pick. Unfortunately, he's just not very good. And if you did cut Ezukanma, it would save you $1.1 million in cap space. So there does have a little bit of value to cutting him. Not a ton, but a little bit. But it's another failed experiment. The former big-bodied athlete from Texas Tech has not been good in his career. He's only appeared in 5 games, 1 reception for 3 yards. And it happened about 2.5 years ago. He was on the practice squad all year last year. He's in the top 51 cap space this year. Just don't think Ezukama is good, man. He's got to go. He's got to go. And here is what I actually think the wide receiver room is going to look like. I just don't see room for him. I don't. Now, the Dolphins could keep 5 wide receivers. They could keep 6 wide receivers. It's likely that they keep 5. But you know what? Even if they kept 6, I don't think he's on the group. Obviously, you're going to have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington, and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I think those are guaranteed 4. That 5th spot's up for grabs. I think it's going to be Andrew Armstrong, the UDFA wide receiver from Arkansas, who led the SEC in receiving last season with 1,170 yards, 72 catches, only has had 6 drops over the last 2 seasons, and is 6'4" with a 4.5 140. That's exactly what Miami needs in this room. I think Armstrong makes the team. And if that's your 5th guy, that's probably only your 5. But the Dolphins also drafted Taj Washington out of USC, 7th-round pick last year. He got hurt before the year started and was out for the season. I think the Dolphins would like to see what they got in Taj Washington potentially. I don't see room for Eric Ezukama on this roster. I'm kind of sick of him in Miami, almost like Channing Tindall, and that's why I think he's going to be a strong cut candidate. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are going to have you covered with videos every single day. And if you want daily Dolphins content, we are the channel for you. Hit that sub button right now. You can flash it there. It's just a little long. Shout out to Rooski! $100 super chat! Bang! Shout out to Rooski, the legend who showed me it on Twitter. Was not happy with my assessment of Jason Marshall Jr. and won't let me live it down. Appreciate the $100 super chat. I'm going to get someone to bring a beer bong in here, and I'll take down a beer for the $100 super chat. Let me read this first. Because it can't read there. Let's make a wager. If Jason Marshall Jr. balls out, would you wear his jersey to show a sign of respect? Also, I need to spend more time here so I can get a free jersey. Also, today marks my baby girl being 4 months old. She was born when the Dolphins played the Browns. Well, Rooski, that's awesome. Happy birthday to your 4-month-old daughter. That's awesome. Love that. I really do. Keep it in the family. Make sure she grows up a Dolphins fan. You know what? If Jason Marshall Jr., I'll say this right now, Rooski. If Jason Marshall Jr. balls out, becomes a starting corner for the Dolphins and an above-average starter corner, I will get a jersey of Jason Marshall Jr. for you, Rooski. I will get it. For me to wear on stream. But I'll get it for you. And then maybe I'll ship it out to you as well. If you're still with us at the channel, Rooski. You're a legend, man. Appreciate the $100 super chat. That's just absolutely awesome. Love it, man. Let me get that beer bong in here. Rooski bringing the juice. Ace says Taj Washington over Theo Wease. Yeah. I want to see what I have in Taj Washington. I do. I thought he was going to be solid. I actually projected him to be on the bubble of the roster last year before he got hurt. You know what's funny about Taj Washington, by the way, Justin? So Malik Washington, the wide receiver on the team, wore 83 last year. He switched his number to 6. You know what Taj Washington's number is going to be? 83. So for the second straight year, we might have a Dolphin wearing 83. But Taj Washington's explosive. In 2023, Justin, there was only one player with 4 touchdowns receiving over 40 yards. Taj Washington. trying to find his RAS because I'm pretty sure he put up good numbers. Guess I was wrong. Ran a 4.52. It's not great. Good 3 cone, 8.43 grade. I thought I remembered it being higher than that. Guess not. Before we get into our next segment, I'm going to get hopefully someone to bring in the Murbanga. I like Taj. I think Taj Washington's got a chance, man. Let's look back at what he did at college. Can't remember exactly what he put up. His final year, 59 catches, 1,062 yards, 18 yards per catch, 8 touchdowns. Like, I know he was working with Caleb Williams, but like he was an explosive receiver for that, man.
Yeah, that's the little one, right?
Yeah, he's small. He's 5'10" and change, close to 5'11".
I was like, that name sounds so familiar, but I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the USC receiver.
Yep. So I think he could easily grab that final roster spot if they keep 6. Remember, Miami only kept 5 last year, though. So if they keep 5 again, Taj is on the outs. I think Andrew Armstrong is the 5th name. Cliff, who's a hater of the Dolphins, by the way. Cliff, I don't know if Cliff is legitimately a Dolphins fan or not. Cliff is in every video we put out. Quite literally every single one. Always just talk shit about the Dolphins. I can't tell if the person's a fan or not. Fox Sports gave the Fins a D+, which is the worst grade. USA Today also gave Fins the lowest score. Well, you know what the news is? Good news is, guys, we haven't even seen him play the field yet.
Often the biggest haters are the biggest fans.
I like that. Ace says, are you okay with us not taking linebacker in the draft? Yeah, we already were locked in. We have our top 4. Our top 4 linebackers, Jordan Brooks, Tyrell Dodson, Willie Gay Jr., and then, thank you, Jackson, Willie Gay Jr., and then KJ Brett. We didn't need a linebacker. Would I have been mad at taking a linebacker in like the 5th or 6th round? No. I wouldn't have been mad at it, but we didn't need it. That's for sure. All right, beer bong time. Not really ready for this, but when Ruski comes in with a $100 bang job, you know we got to bring it down. Shout out to you, Ruski. That's watermelon for you. Not the worst flavor. It's better than wild cherry, that's for sure. Shout out to everyone. Shout out to Ruski. One more segment coming here, but why not have some drinks on a Tuesday afternoon? All right. I think that motherfucker put 2 in here, man. I don't know what to tell you. That was a lot. Because, like, it's got a pretty big base here, the Murbanga. I'm convinced he put more than 1 Happy Dad in there. Because that shit can hold more than 1. We only usually put 1 in. Because I kind of know, based off muscle memory, when I'm getting to my last, like, part of the chug. And I thought I was done, and there was more. And that was an issue. And it wasn't done. All right. Mark says we needed that Three Stooges drinking alcohol sound effect. I can't say I'm familiar with that. Can't say I am. All right. We got one more segment on today's live show. Appreciate Ruski. Appreciate everybody that is hanging out with us here in the live chat. Got 140 people still watching. This next video is Miami Dolphins trade targets. Let's get into it right now. Oh, hold on. All right, I just had to message someone back on Slack. Sorry. All right, now we're going to get into it. After the NFL draft, who could the Miami Dolphins target on the veteran trade market? We're going to look at 5 trade targets for the Fins today at positions of need. So we're going to focus in on a defensive lineman, 3 corners, and 1 offensive player. I'm Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today. But I do want to make this clear, and I want the Dolphins fans to remember this. I think a trade could absolutely be on the horizon for the Fins. One, because maybe they strike out in free agency on a couple veterans and want to go the trade market route. But remember what the Dolphins have. They traded back in the 4th round with the Texans this past weekend, and they picked up a 2026 third. They also may get another pick from trading Jalen Ramsey. So if they trade Ramsey, they could have 2 extra picks to trade. They already have a pick in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. A second one would provide you with multiple different picks to trade in the offseason. So that could be helpful to potentially getting Dolphins a veteran player via the market. So let's get into the first player that I could see the Dolphins targeting via trade. It's Greg Newsome, the cornerback from the Cleveland Browns. Now, there is rumors circulating that the Browns are looking to trade Greg Newsome, and it came out a couple days before the NFL draft that they could trade the former first-round pick out of Northwestern, and I think this is a solid fit and solid option for Miami. Before we get into Newsome more as a player and what it may cost, make sure you are following me over on Twitter. @Nic_Rohloff is my handle. Tweet about the Dolphins every single day. And if a trade actually did go down this offseason, whether it's Ramsey or the Dolphins acquiring a player, you'd learn about it quicker if you follow me because I'll tweet about it, and then I'll come over and make a video on the channel. So hit that follow button right now. All right, let's look at Newsome's career coverage stats. He has played 54 games. Like I said, he was the 26th overall pick in the draft 4 years ago out of Northwestern. And he's had a solid career. Like, completion percentage, solid. Got good size in the perimeter, 6'2", good speed. He's a little bit thin in terms of his build, but his athleticism makes up for it, which is what made him such a highly sought-after pick. Not a ball hawk type of corner, only 3 career interceptions in 4 seasons, so not someone crazy in that aspect, but he's a solid coverage guy. Not going to sit here and act like he's a star lockdown CB1, but he is absolutely a CB2 caliber type of guy. Now, the one concern that I have with Newsome is that he actually just had his worst season of his career. Through the first 3 years, he was very solid. As a rookie, he had a QB rating when targeted of 96.6, only 2 touchdowns. Then he had his 2 best seasons in 22 and 23, where he had a QB rating of targeted under 90 and then under 80, only allowing 2 touchdowns then. But that number skyrocketed in 2024 to 4 touchdowns allowed and 120.7 QB rating. Maybe I'm looking too much into that because the Browns were the horrific and obviously had the number 2 overall pick this year, but Newsome did have the worst season of his career this past year. And then there's another concern as well when factoring and maybe making a deal for Newsome. One, the draft compensation could be anywhere between a 3rd and a 5th round pick, but he also carries a $13.3 million cap hit this season because that's his base. Remember, he's playing on that 5th-year option. Cleveland did pick that up. And because they picked that up and he does not have an extension in place, if you traded for Greg Newsome, there's a world where you might only have him for 1 year because if he doesn't play good for you and you don't want to keep him around, he is an unrestricted free agent next season. So you'd have to trade for him. You'd have to extend him. But if you did not extend him, he might just walk and you traded a mid-round pick for a corner to get 1 year out of him. So there is a little bit of a dicey move if you traded for the former first-round pick. But would you make the move? Would you trade for Greg Newsome? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Let me know if you would take the swing on the former first-round pick out of Northwestern by trading with the Cleveland Browns after the draft. Get down in the comment section and let me know. Another trade target. This one's a defensive lineman. It's Andrew Billings, the longtime veteran D tackle This is a fascinating possibility because the Bears didn't feel like they were going to be trading anyone. But then they drafted Shamar Turner on day 2 of the draft. And that kind of made people look a different way because they had Billings, they had Zach Pickens, they had Gervon Dexter, and now they had Shamar Turner. That seems like a lot of interior defensive linemen with them constantly having edge rushers as well. I could see Chris Grier adding a vet. You obviously have Zach Sealer. You drafted 3 defensive linemen in Zeke Biggers and Jordan Phillips and Kenneth Grant. You still have Benito Jones there as well. But there likely needs to be another addition to make it a 6-man D lineman room. And I could see them looking to sign someone or maybe trade someone for cheap. Billings over the past 2 seasons in Chicago has been actually pretty solid. 23 tackles, 6 missed tackles for about a 13-14 missed tackle percentage. Has gotten after the quarterback. 37 pressures, 32 hurries. Hasn't finished the job, but has been a pretty solid interior pass rusher in rotation and is one of the better Bears interior defensive run stoppers. I don't know if they would trade him. There is buzz. I was talking with our Bears host about if they could trade Billings or Gervon Dexter, the former second-round pick out of Florida. It sounds like Billings would likely be the odd man out if they did trade someone because he does only have 1 year left on his deal. It is a cheap contract. You'd only have to pay him $2.1 million this season. But if you traded for Andrew Billings, all you would probably have to send is a late day 3 pick. And it might even just be one of those random trades where it's like Billings and a 7th for the Dolphins 6th round pick, where you swap 7th and 6th round picks, but you get Andrew Billings. That is certainly an option. And I wouldn't hate if Miami ultimately added a veteran D lineman who could stop their run, but also generate some pressure to be in rotation with Grant, Sealer, and Jordan Phillips. Next trade target for the Fins, Jalen Watson, the cornerback from the Kansas City Chiefs. This one might be the most intriguing because if you look just solely based off last season, Watson was better than Greg Newsome. Watson, former 7th round pick by Kansas City. He only played about 500 snaps last season because he got injured, missed the whole second half of the season, but actually returned for the Super Bowl. So yes, he got hurt halfway through and missed half the season, but there is no injury concern for this year because he actually came back and was in that Super Bowl game where they obviously lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. But there is something interesting that could point towards Watson actually being traded. Jalen Watson is entering the final year of his contract. The Chiefs GM, Brett Veach, since he has taken over, has not re-signed one homegrown defensive back. That is wild to me. Talking with our Chiefs report host, Tyler Jones, he thinks that Jalen Watson's trade value could be a 3rd to 4th or 5th round pick, similar to Greg Newsome. Now, Jalen Watson is entering the last year of his contract. He would only carry about a $3.4 million salary this season if you traded for Jalen Watson. So you would trade a mid-round pick. You would have him cheap. Now, you would have to potentially extend him after trading for him or run the risk of losing him in free agency next offseason. But Watson, a 6'2", lengthy corner, who plays on the outside, has been really good for Kansas City over the last 3 seasons, likely not going to be re-signed, could be a very good option, and Tyler Jones told me that he expects Watson to be traded. He said he would bet he gets dealt before the season more than if he was on the team. So this is an option, and I would absolutely throw a 4th or a 5th round pick for Jalen Watson because I like his size, I like his cover ability, and if the Chiefs aren't going to extend him, then why not try to get him for cheap since the Chiefs don't want to lose him for absolutely nothing? If the Dolphins do make a move in the trade market, whether it's trading Ramsey or acquiring a player, we will have you covered with a video. Hit that sub button. We're 77 subscribers away from 69,400. Let's get there on today's show. Join the channel today for daily Dolphins coverage. All right, moving on here to the next trade target for the Miami Dolphins. We're going to go to the one offensive player, a guy that we have actually talked about before. That is Michael Mayer, the tight end from Las Vegas. There was a lot of buzz about him getting dealt before the draft. Ultimately didn't come to fruition. Now, the Raiders didn't draft a tight end during the 7 rounds, but maybe Mayer could still be dealt. I doubt the Dolphins add an offensive player, if we're going to be honest, because I think they're set at every position offensively after drafting Jonah Savaiinaya. You have your wide receivers. You have Tua. You drafted Ollie Gordon to complete that running back room. Like, there's no really need to get another tight end and another offensive player. But if there had to be one, I think a tight end 2 could be beneficial. I don't hate Pharaoh Brown. I don't hate Jalen Conyers, the UDFA, but you could argue it's a pretty weak room outside of Jonnu Smith, who set records for you last season. And Mayer, the former day 2 pick out of Notre Dame, could be an option. He missed a lot of time last year. Now, not because of injuries, actually because of personal reasons. He missed 11 games, or missed 6 games, but played in 11. And after the Raiders drafted Brock Bowers, Mayer's role in the offense kind of got put a little to the woodshed. He is a solid blocking tight end. He's got good size to be a red zone threat. I think he'd work really well with Jonnu Smith. So if the Dolphins wanted to trade for an offensive player, I think tight end would be the position to do it at. Mayer, a player that I think the Dolphins would be interested in and would complement Jonnu Smith well, would cost you likely only a late day 3 pick as well. Only cost you $2.9 million in salary as well. So the only expensive contract that we've talked about to this point is Greg Newsome at $13.3 million. The other 3 in Billings, Watson, and Mayer would all cost you less than $5 million to acquire when it comes to a contract, which makes it more appealing as the Dolphins only have about $16.8 million in cap space to work with right now. All right, the final player we're going to talk about here is another corner. It's Amik Robertson from the Detroit Lions. There has been some deep chatter about Robertson potentially being traded this offseason following the draft. They got a lot of corners over there. They got Terry and Arnold. I'm spacing on the one other they signed, but Robertson has been linked to someone that they could deal. Now, Robertson is strictly a nickel corner. He's only 5'8", so he's really small, but there has been chatter about maybe moving Kader Kohu to the outside. Kohu has been this scheme in this offense, or defense, for last season, but been in the organization for a while. An undersized corner for sure, which has made him a nickel for most of his career. But as you saw last season, late in the year when the Dolphins dealt with so many injuries, Cam Smith struggling, Storm Duck struggling, Kendall Fuller out, Kohu played a little bit outside. And maybe they want to kind of pull the trigger on moving him outside full time, and they trade for a nickel corner and Amik Robertson. Could also see the Dolphins signing veteran Mike Hilton and moving Kohu outside as well. Like, Kohu wasn't the best outside, but maybe they want to experiment with him doing it full time. Robertson was good in coverage last season for the Lions in nickel, only having a 57.5 completion percentage, 88.3 QB rating. Like, Robertson is certainly an intriguing option if you wanted to go that route of moving Kohu to the outside and then acquiring a nickel corner, whether it's via trade or free agency. But it's another name I want to throw out there for the Dolphins fans. Salary is not that much either, $4.7 million. Unclear of what the kind of price tag it would be to trade for Robertson. I likely would think it'd be 5th, 6th round pick in all likelihood. But Robertson is certainly an intriguing option for the Fins if they wanted to move Kader Kohu to the outside. All right, we talked about 5 Dolphins trade targets on this episode of Dolphins Today. Who do you want the Dolphins to trade for? We asked you if you would trade for Greg Newsome. Maybe it's Newsome. You can let me know down below. Maybe it's one of the other 4 names we talked about. Maybe it's a player that we did not even talk about on today's show. But name your Dolphins top trade target following the NFL draft. Mine is Jalen Watson, the cornerback from Kansas City. And if you couldn't tell by the way I spoke about each player in this video, I clearly like Jalen Watson a lot more. I think he's got good size. He can play outside. If you traded for him, it wouldn't cost you that much. Maybe that extra 3rd round pick you got from Houston or a 4th or 5th round selection. I don't think an extension would cost you that much either. You could probably get him for, I don't know, $8 to $12 million per season maybe. Maybe I'm valuing him a little bit lower than the market. But the truth is, you trade for Jalen Watson, sign one of the other veteran corners like Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, Sante Samuel Jr., James Bradbury. It's not a terrible room. It's not. That's assuming you trade Jalen Ramsey, like it looks like it's heading that way. Like Watson on the outside, one of the veteran corners you signed for ANC, Kader Kohu in the nickel, Cam Smith, Storm Duck, Ethan Bonner's depth. Like, it's not the best room, but it's a significantly better room than what you currently have. So to me, Jalen Watson is my top guy. All right, hit that sub button. Remember, if the Dolphins actually do pull off a trade, we will have you covered with the video and a full breakdown. So join the channel today. All right, all 4 segments down. Done here. Another $20 super chat from Ruski. Next time, do Malibu. Mix it with strawberry cream savers. It's the definitive version of heaven for alcohol. You know, Ruski, we don't have those stuff in studio, but next time I'm at the liquor store, if I see all of those things, I'll give it a go. Sounds like it's going to be really sweet. Now, I don't hate sweet. What is the strawberry cream savers? They're not talking about, I feel like they're talking about like a hard candy.
Looks like a mint hard candy.
So am I supposed to just Malibu with the hard candy in it? Let me know. Let me know. But appreciate the $20 super chat, my guy. Still got 165 people watching. We're done with our live show. That's all 4 segments. Finalized. If we want to stay live, super chats, ask a question. We'll stay live. No, you mix it and let it dissolve and then drink it. Interesting. So is it like a shot, let it dissolve and then drink it? Or are you pouring up a full cup of Malibu? How hammered are you getting over there? I feel like if you poured like Malibu isn't like the hardest liquor, I don't think, but like a full cup is crazy.
Like it would have to be mixed with something.
Yeah, there's got to be some mixer other than just Malibu, or we're getting hammered. No mailbag today, fins up. No mailbag. Let it dissolve for 2 or 3 days and then drink it, but there still's got to be a mixer.
I think it's what he's saying is you put it in the bottle and it does like dissolves in the whole like bottle itself.
Yeah, okay, I get that, but then when you pour it out, what are you pouring it into?
Sounds like whatever mixer you want.
I mean, if it's strawberry flavored though, there's not a lot of options.
Depends on how well it mixed. Because isn't Malibu already flavored?
Yeah, it's like a coconutty, I think.
Could be interesting.
I like Malibu. Maybe I'm stripping on that. I like Malibu, though. Malibu is, I think, in like pina colada type beat. Maybe that's rum. I don't remember. I love Malibu, though. Malibu's a great beach drink. Or it's like a drinking outside, like if you want to mix liquor.
Isn't Malibu rum?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe... What is Malibu in for drinks? Pina coladas? Yes, I was right. But I've seen Malibu and Coke. It's funny when you look up what drinks have Malibu in it, alcoholic, they're all like fruity like beach drinks. Pina colada, Malibu Bay Breeze, Malibu and pineapple. I bet that's good. Malibu Sunset, the Blue Hawaiian. What's your favorite drink, Justin? I don't know if I actually have asked you that. I've seen you out a couple times. I never asked you what's your favorite drink.
A rum and Coke would be the easiest one.
Easy.
Can't mess that up.
Can't mess it up. Mine is without a question vodka pineapple.
Ooh.
Little Tito's with pineapple juice, all of it. And if we want to get crazy, like throw a splash of cran in there. I'm not going to complain about that. Ooh. They get me fucked up very quickly.
I would imagine.
They go down so easy. It's a big job the next morning, that's for sure. That's for sure. All right. No super chats came in. We'll probably call it there. Appreciate everybody who tuned in today. You guys have been a blast today. Shout out to Ruski for all the super chats. You're a legend. We'll see you live again next Tuesday. We will have videos out every day this week. A lot of content still here coming, and a lot to talk about. A lot of talking about some of these draft prospects, trade rumors, free agent targets. So stay tuned, because although we have gotten through the meat of the offseason of the free agency and draft period, still got a lot to talk about. We got rookie minicamp coming up, OTAs over the next month and a half. So it's a busy time here at the channel still. We ain't going nowhere. And then we'll be ready to go, baby, in late July for training camp and August preseason. So stay locked in here. Appreciate everything. Oh! At the buzzer, super chat. We'll get Ruski on screen one more time. Shout out to my guy. We did the whole closing monologue there and everything. And Ruski was able to sneak it up and in. I'm an OG Diet Coke and bourbon or root beer with Jim Beam or Mountain Dew. And what is Taramana? Taramana. Time to look this up. You know, Ruski's teaching me a lot today. Oh, it's a tequila. I think. I think he spelled it right. Or wrong. Teremana. Yeah, it's Dwayne Johnson tequila. So you're saying Diet Coke and bourbon, or Diet Coke and bourbon or root beer? I've never, I don't like drinking root beer alcoholic. Why? Root beer is my favorite soda. Fun fact, it's my favorite soda. Love root beer. I don't want to muddy the waters.
Mix and match.
I don't want when I drink root beer, I want to enjoy my root beer. I don't want to get it alcoholic. I don't want to deal with it. So if I'm doing soda and alcohol, I'll go like a rum and Diet Coke. You know what I used to do a lot of, and this was degenerate of me back in college. I was 21 for sure. I used to get Burnett's cherry vodka and then mix it with Diet Pepsi cherry.
That sounds awful.
It was probably terrible. But hey, I was having a great time. I also would mix Sprite and Burnett's lemon vodka. Big Burnett's guy. Listen, when you're in college, you got a ball on a budget. You get a whole bottle for $8. How am I supposed to say no to that? $8 for 24 ounces of vodka. More than that. Whatever. It was like more. Yeah. How big were the Burnett's bottles? Last thing we're doing here before we get out of here. How big are those bottles usually? Oh my God, they're making me verify my age before I go on the website. Does it say? Can't see. Can't tell. Burnett's was my home, though. So easy, man. Fine. I'll verify my age. I was trying to get around it. August 9, 2000. Fun fact, that's my birthday, August 9, 2000. Last year we did a watch party on my birthday. How much is that? Yeah, once Justin figures out how many ounces in 1.75 liters, we're heading out. Okay. That's pretty good value. $8 for 33 ounces of vodka. Whew. Are they still $8? I hope so. If I ever am in a liquor store and I see Burnett's, I'm going to buy it just for shits and giggles. If I ever see it, the problem is I don't think they sell it here. I've never seen it in a liquor store.
I'm looking at it at $12.49.
Inflation, $4 over 6 years. How sad is that, folks?
For literal battery acid.
All right, that's going to do it. Appreciate Ruski. Appreciate the 115 people still watching. Appreciate the 2,000 plus that have tuned in throughout our live show. See you next Tuesday. We'll have videos out every day this week, sometimes 2 a day. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you have your notifications and subscribe. See ya. Go Fins.